Hello, everybody. You're listening to Currency of Discourse. Today I have Jonanthan Platt with me. He is the founder of StoryChain. It's a local organization that looks to promote literacy in female prisons. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. He has uh, been in, it looks like, a few places in terms of news: Yellow Springs, New Carlisle, and Springfield. And then you're also affiliated with Up Dayton in some way as well.
Yes,
Is
yeah.
that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess we could just start this out by having you tell us what Story Chain is. Broadly, what is it? How does it work? And
Sure.
where is it located?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. It started out as a program for females in prison, but we have broadened a little bit. We now work with men who are fathers as well. And
Okay.
the reason why is the Judge Capelli in Fairborn, gave me a mandate, really. If you're going to do the women, you have to do the men too. And I argued with her. I was like,
Yeah, how did you feel about
women,
that?
I didn't like it because I think women are more important.
Okay.
As far as it comes to child rearing and as far as the society that we are in,
Right.
that when a woman is incarcerated, more children cry than when a man incarcerates, statistically. And that's kind of the pulse that started Story Chain. But she told us to do it, and so we did it, a little reluctantly. But once we met the clients, it was great. It was like a bunch of puppies. They really responded to it well. Some of them did not. Some of them were a little hesitant. A couple just walked out and that just weren't invited back. And then one or two just reluctantly went along and kind of read pretty. Their expression was threadbare, but most got into it really deeply, and it was very rewarding. So I'm going to do it again.
It's
We're going
okay.
we're going to do men again.
And where was this? Where
This
was
was at
this?
Greene County. This is at the Greenleaf program, and this you said that this is a program for prison. It is, but right now we're focused on jail, and right now we're focused at Greene County Jail because Greene County has a rehab program called Greenleaf in the jail. Montgomery County does not have a rehab program in the jail. Clark County does not have a rehab program in the jail. All their rehab programs are in prison.
Gotcha.
But Greene County, with this program called Greenleaf, which was started in the 1990s by an ex-Marine who wanted to have some kind of accountability for people who are incarcerated on the jail level, started this program called Greenleaf. And some people said it's filtered into kind of a lightweight boot camp. It's not as strict as it used to be. They used to have to, um, you know, spit and polish and do their beds in a certain way. Now it's a program where they're separated from the regular population in jail. They're in their own quads, their own pods, and they commiserate together. There's only 20 slots. They're all accountable for each other. There's a lot of group counseling that they have, and peer counseling and mentor programs that they have. And there's 3 part-time counselors, professionals that work with them. So Story Chain fits like a glove in this program because Story Chain works with the inmates directly. We are about the children. We're all about the children, but we go through the parent. We work with the parent pretty intensely for 5 weeks. It's all about their book choice, their book discovery, their book introduction. How do they address the book? How do they really get involved with the book? How do they present the book to other people? 8th grade stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but the you don't the parents don't know that. They just love it. They just love talking about books that they're going to share with their children. Why wouldn't you? I
Right.
share my books that I'm going to share with my children. It's a real community thing. So I bring in other people from the community that are also reading to their children and their suggestions of what they want to read to their kids. So it's this real, at the very get go, we get in the community, we get in that community aspect. And then the workshops that follow after the book choices is the voice delivery. I really believe in the sing-song quality of the voice.
Right.
You really got to have a lot of animation in your voice. A lot of these published books have words that literally go up and down on the page. Why can't our voice go up and down? How is that? Oh, what's the strain in my throat? Oh, if I had a voice instructor to show me how to do it, I can probably make it even more colorful. So we bring in theater people, we bring in DJs, we bring in voice specialists who really understand the intonation. We also bring in politicians, because who better at rhetoric than politicians or listening rhetoric? So there's many different levels that we have volunteers come in, and that's just getting bigger and bigger. I used to do a workshop. It used to be just me on the workshop. The first 6 workshops, it would just be me and then maybe an assistant that would work with the clients in there. But now I have volunteers that come in with me that just take control. They take control of whatever theme we're working on at that time.
Yeah. That leads into one question I had for you, which was about the literacy. So teaching the different types of literacy, because I saw in one news source that you guys stress diction. So what would you say are the ways that what are the different types of skills that you're hoping to give them apart from the voice, right? So obviously you're hoping it will promote literacy in the children themselves.
Yes.
What else? What else happens in those workshops?
I think what else happens is a lot of pacing and stylizing of the voice, and oratorical delivery, rhetorical delivery, as you and I both know. That kind of stuff is real potent. The orality that is delivered is something that I think most children don't experience. That most, not just children of the incarcerated, but students in general don't really have the opportunity to listen to a voice tell a story. It's not in our standards. It's not in the Common Core. Rhetorical listening, I think, is a huge chunk of rhetoric disposition, rhetoric discourse. But I don't think that's taught very often. And I think we give rhetoric listening and rhetoric discourse to the children on a very intimate level. And what we see happening later on is after the MP3 players are delivered to the children, they receive them, and that is happening. That's something we're doing. But what we'd like to see happen in the future is these children listening to the MP3 players, and then they record their own stories and download it on the MP3 players, and we give it back to the parents. Amazing. So we create this reciprocity, this communication through published material. So all victims' rights are intact. We don't violate victims' rights because we don't use any original work from the prisoners themselves. We use published work, and we're starting to work through the publishers and seeing what publishers allow this kind of this market that we have.
Oh, that's great.
Created.
Yeah. So in terms of the connections with the children, do you like meet the children? Is there any like convening process that happens after they've listened to their mother?
Well, we meet them when they receive the MP3 players. We find that very important. And at the beginning, I was visiting their houses, and that became very problematic because children that are incarcerated are the most disenfranchised community ever. You don't know where they are. So we really make a huge effort to find a community hub. And usually that's the library, the local library. So we have the caregiver who should sign on at the very beginning, and usually does, as somebody who's going to commit themselves to the program. If they don't, we can't have the client who's incarcerated, the mother, involved. But that's never happened. We've never denied somebody in jail because the caregiver wouldn't do it.
Gotcha.
So the caregivers have been very compliant,
Open and
to it.
pivotal to the process.
And so we meet them once. We meet them once at the library after several phone calls. We meet them and we have the child listen to the MP3 player for the first time for a few minutes, and then we get some feedback and we write down data. And this is an output. We need to know what the child's reaction is.
Right.
And it's always stunning. It's not stunning anymore because it's not surprising anymore because we know what the reaction is going to be, and it's always ecstatic. They're always very, very excited about getting into these books and listening to them and following along to mommy's voice. Yeah.
So in terms of getting the recording back to the mother, or getting the child's voice to the mother,
yes.
I imagine that could create a lot of hurdles. So is it something that you are hoping will actualize at some point?
Some point. Right now, I mean, we are very infantile in our development.
Yes.
It takes a long time. Like right now, I was hoping to start another rotation, but we are waiting for schedules. I have volunteer schedules and I have counselor schedules, and we're trying to make them mesh. So that's there's just a lot of things that need to happen before. That's a really good question. I want to get to it, but another thing that we do after we meet with the caregiver and the child, 3 weeks later we call their house and we want to know how often they use the MP3 players, where they use it. This is really important data. It's probably the most important data. And the data I get is always good. I've never had a child say, oh, I lost it, or I threw it away, or we don't know.
Yeah.
They talk about, they request more stories. They listen to it twice a week. One child listens to it on his bus ride to school. He went to Trotwood Middle School, and some of his teachers allowed him to listen to it while he was in school. They say it helps his anger control.
Wow.
So yeah, there's so many things that we don't even know that this product does. And I'm really, really excited. I'm really excited with the data. I'm really excited with the progress. The problem is it's just me, and it takes a long time.
Right. Yeah.
But we're working on it. We're moving. We got some grant money this summer. We got some really good support. But again, it just takes time. And I'm all about Greene County Jail. I want to expand. I want to go to other jails, but because Greene County is so responsive and they love what we do, and the program fits like a glove into their program, why change?
Right.
So we're just kind of cleaning out the kinks each time we do it. We've done 2 rotations with them. We're about to do 2 more.
So is Greene County primarily, is it male or female?
It's male and female.
It's male and female.
Yes, it's male and female.
And then, so you've also worked at DCI as
Yes,
well, right?
at
And
DCI.
then Montgomery
County Jail.
Montgomery County Jail.
Mm-hmm.
And so are those intentionally preemptive? Like, is there a reason that you would want to focus on jails as opposed to prisons? Or
Yes.
are you, okay. All right.
There is. And the reason is I started out in prison, and I probably would have just stayed in prison because it was so open. With they loved the program, and the women appreciated it. The problem was the children are everywhere in prison. I mean, the ladies that are incarcerated aren't necessarily from this area. Some of them were from Cleveland, some of them from Youngstown, some of them from out of state.
Right,
and
right.
And the children were in Little Rock, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky. Right. And so for me to...
I remember you saying that there was a logistics issue, right? In terms of
huge.
Getting it out there and back.
Mm-hmm.
Or getting it out there essentially. Yeah.
And what I learned in prison were all these women who said, man, I wish you were in jail. I'm like, well, why do you wish Story Chain was in jail? He's like, because there was nothing to do. I was there for 2 years, and my child was 3 blocks down the road. It would have been great because the only time that my child ever got to listen to me is during a phone conversation, and it was usually a stressful situation. So I was like, wait a minute, the jails are just calling to me. So I started soliciting jails, and I got an immediate response. Like, oh yeah, come on in, because every jail, and this is a law, this is a mandate made by Governor Taft when he was in office. Every jail, every county jail, has to have a designated reading room.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't know it either. I learned when I was doing this. And this was instigated by the First Lady. And if I ever see her, I'm going to shake her hand and tell her that it's such a good idea, because it might even just be a cell, an extra cell, like Montgomery County, or it might be a pretty dismal room like Clark County, or it might be part of a program within the jail like Greene County, and their reading room is wonderful. So Greene County just had all the amenities, and had the infrastructure that I could just easily walk into.
Yeah.
Montgomery County didn't have the infrastructure. They didn't even give me a guard. They left me alone with the clients, which I wasn't uncomfortable with. But after a while, I realized that could have put my nonprofit in a lot of jeopardy.
Right.
So it's good to have counselors. It's good to have people that are on the inside that know them. And it's good to have them as supporters. Now with Updayton, when I won Updayton in May or June, that's a huge help. Not just the money they give me, but the volunteers, because I'm going to be able to do a lot more with much more impact with using the volunteers, and that's what I'm really excited about. And that's why the scheduling I'm taking so much time with, because you can only schedule once.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can only schedule once, and then that's it.
Right,
So
right.
we're really trying to nail it down, and we want to start September 17th. But we're not going to start until we're ready. So
That's good.
yeah, it is good. I get really impatient at this time, because I'm all about doing it. I'm all about. It's kind of like when I was in grad school. It's just show me. I mean, that's why theory has always been theory to me. It's like, just do it.
Yeah.
Let's just show the money and show that it can happen. Right.
Oh yeah. For those who don't know, we went to masters together. We were composition and rhetoric, and I have experience in female prisons as well with teaching, so I understand the difficulties. And it just seems like with technology, there's so many places to go now. There's so much more that can be done. But it kind of, a lot of it comes to a halt when you start working with prisons, because there's just so many security problems. And so I guess that might be my next question, is like, what are some of the biggest hurdles that you've had, possibly how you've overcome them, given things like security issues, or, I mean, just the
Yeah, I haven't. Security hasn't really been a problem. It's really fascinating how every jail is different with security and what their policies are. I now see that there's not just one universal mandate for going in. I've been by myself going into jail. I've been escorted by 2 people at all times as a requirement going into other places. So the security is kind of extreme and not extreme, but at the same time, it really hasn't really affected our program one way or the other. There was one point where Clark County wouldn't allow me to use hardcover books.
Okay.
And that was a problem, because most of the library books are hardcover books, not softcover. I never thought to pay attention to that.
Especially a lot of children books.
Yeah, so that,
for obvious reasons.
Yeah, it all made sense.
Right.
And so it really, but it deducted my inventory by 90%. So now when I go to a jail, I tell them I'd really like to use hardcover books. I know that you probably don't allow them, but I'm wondering if if
you can make an exception.
If you can make an exception, and they usually do. So
great.
it's just knowing what you're walking into and being prepared for that, and that's what we're doing at Greene County. Like I know what I know what to expect now, and I want to do it right. Like this time around, the sheriff's department has allowed me to go in by myself. Now, am I ever going to go in by myself? I would like to think not. No, I would never want to go in by myself. But the fact that he's allowing me to go in by myself is huge, and I'm not gonna not take advantage of that. What I am going to do is I'm going to recruit volunteers that are very, very trustful. Make sure I have their schedule down, and bring them with me if I have to go in by myself. If there's no counselors,
yes.
if there's and I'll only do it if I can bring in two volunteers where we represent both genders. That's very important too.
Okay.
So if I'm going in, I have to bring in a woman
female.
with me. One of them has to be a female.
Why do you feel like that is? Why?
There's just with all this perseverance on sexual assault.
Yes.
I just think it's important.
I gotcha.
You never want to put yourself in that situation. When I was alone with all these women in Montgomery County, it was great. We were high-fiving each other, having a good old time, but something easily could have happened.
Yes.
Something easily could have been misconstrued, and it could have really hurt my program.
Right.
And we don't want to hurt my program.
Yeah, that's an issue as well. I remember that when I was working at DCI,
Yeah.
I had heard about the year before they had a huge issue with a bunch of, basically they found out that there were a bunch of sexual assault cases at the prison.
With the clergy?
With the clergy,
Yeah,
yes.
son of a bitch.
Oh my
Sorry.
God. No,
Yeah.
you're okay. You can completely cuss on this
Yeah,
podcast.
son of a bitch. He's a complete
Yeah,
son
I
of
know.
a bitch. And he got transferred before he was even prosecuted. So
Really?
To me, it sounded like they were trying to cover him up.
Yeah, I heard there was a whole cleaning. They were cleaning up there, and that he wasn't the only one. They said they found officers like that. So that's definitely an issue, and it's always been an issue at every prison that I've worked at. And it's just very strange to me how. Well, you've been talking about it a little bit, but I'll let you go into it because we've been discussing. I wanted you to discuss the people that you've been connecting with and how they've helped or hindered. You don't have to mention anybody
Sure.
that you don't want to, but and then organization as well. So any organizations or people that you really stand out to you that you felt like you connected with that helped you with the project, or maybe you learned about a different project.
Sure. I guess there's a little bit of history. Trying to make it where people don't fall asleep. But I started working under a nonprofit at the very beginning. This was a radio assignment. I was looking for stories to cover for the radio, and I found PowerNet, which was a program that works with ex-offenders and it gives them leadership skills inside, and then gives them job opportunities on the outside. So if you do well on the inside with his program, he's going to try to hook you up with jobs and really valuable connections because he owned a bunch of houses, and their thing was all about renovation. So he would set up this whole operation of, giving you some leadership quality on the inside, then you can come in on the outside and lead a project in one of those houses that need renovation. Yeah. So that was the idea. And I really liked what he was doing, and I thought he was a brilliant guy. His name is Craig Powell, and now he lives in Florida. But PowerNet was it was a 501(c), and I was not, so I worked under his umbrella.
So 501(c), could you? A
501(c), a 501(c)(3), isn't it? 501(c)(3). 501(c)(3) is a an entity that has non-profit status. Anyone can be a 501(c)(3). Mm-hmm. It basically means that you do not have to pay taxes for the volunteer work that you do. It's considered a charitable organization. Gotcha. Just like churches or any other company that has non-profit status. I'm not doing it justice, but that's basically what it is. And I have never been a technically, I've never been a 501c3 because I've never had to. I was under PowerNet, and then after PowerNet, I leaped over to Green Giving, which is Greene County Community Foundation, and they have about 200 programs under their nonprofit umbrella.
So what you can do is if you have a program that you want, you can latch on to somebody who already has the 501c.
Yes, and it's much easier. They have one secretary. She does all my books. So every time I raise money or I get grant money, I just give it to her.
Yeah.
And then I when I have a gas bill or something that needs to be something I bought, she pays me back immediately. So it's a really good reciprocity. It's volunteer only. We don't pay anybody, but we do have expenses, of course. So that's being covered, and we have a good little pot right now. So I'm ready to spend it.
Nice.
But what we're spending our money on most is taking people out to lunch, making sure these volunteers are happy, spending food for them, keeping them. Keeping their pulse
spirits
going.
High,
Right, keeping the spirits high.
Keeping them motivated.
Yeah, I'm going to take them out to dinner next week.
Nice.
Because they've been waiting. They've just been waiting in the wings, ready to do this. And I just want to repulse it. I just want to make sure that they know that there's nothing has changed. We're still going to do it.
Right.
It just takes time. I have 3 jobs. You have 2 jobs. It's I have a kid, and I just made a pizza oven. So we all have lives, but I totally believe in story chain. It just takes a lot of time.
So I was going to ask you later, but I guess we can start now, maybe a little bit later. But
sure.
So how did you come into contact with your volunteers? How did they? Was it
Right.
over time?
No, that's an excellent question. And that kind of I was going there with your original question. So we went from PowerNet, and then we went to Greenleaf. And with the award from Updayton, one of their prizes, I guess, is access to all of these people who are community-minded. They're all about keeping Dayton alive, keeping the inner city alive, and what can they give back. And I guess the idea is, if you're a young professional in Dayton, what skin in the game do you have? What are you willing to give back to if you're doing really well? And I had a great opportunity to speak, and it was kind of like a competition coming right out of rhetoric school. I felt I had an advantage. I nailed it. It was good. I mean, it's easy to talk about this thing.
Yeah.
So we won $3,000 from them, and I also recruit friends and family, people that I know, people that I trust, professors. So I have a pretty big volunteer bank at this point. And usually I just ask the volunteer to come with me once to the jail, and whatever workshop we're working on, I'll make them a part of it. I'll put them in a small group and go to town. Usually we have 90 minutes in there. That's usually the longest we have. And, have a 45-minute little small group that they whatever we're working on, they're working on. And that's the volunteer experience. I would like to get volunteers eventually to help me with audio sound, with putting all the audio digital recordings together, because we clean them up. So I would like to put music to them.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe sound effects. Eventually I would like to get a high school who has audio capabilities, makerspace perhaps, who would like to put sound effects to all the stories. And
yeah, we had one for our program, but they had they unfortunately had all their equipment destroyed.
Oh no.
Yeah, so they no longer have that capability. So
What school is that?
No, they didn't go to school.
Oh, okay.
They just had their own equipment. They were a local DJ. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's definitely people out there, but yeah, I mean, it's schools are a great resource for things like that.
Yeah,
certainly.
and I did do a PBL. I think this might have been while I was in grad school. Yeah, while I was in grad school, I did a project-based learning program at STEM school in Springfield, where I had students go into small groups. This was aided by an English teacher, Cameron. What's his name? No. Mr. Cameron, forgive me. He set up everybody in small groups, and I talked to them about StoryChain. I told them all about StoryChain, and then they wrote business plans, and they wrote jingles, and they wrote maxims like what's my
Oh, I remember you
one-liner?
talking about this.
And then they
yeah.
drew the symbol for StoryChain,
Mm-hmm.
and they competed with each other. And I brought in Wright State students as the judges. So they came in and they judged who was the best, and I picked them. And now I'm using that as my business card, which I haven't printed up yet.
Oh, nice.
So yeah.
Well, I did see on the Updating website there is a place for people to volunteer openly. It asks for people to give their information. They want to volunteer.
So people who volunteer for Updating have an option to go to me, and that's automatically sent to me, and then I reach out. So Updating's been great. They've probably given me about 12 volunteers, and they're all sensational. I have one guy who is trying to create a StoryChain fellowship for me. He has a sister who's a PhD in psychology from Ball State, and they want to set up this whole thing for a scholarship. They also hooked me up with University of Dayton. The Dean of Criminal Justice, a woman by the name of Martha Humley, Professor Humley. She's really, she's in my heart. She's radical. She's all about changing the norms when it comes to criminal justice. She thinks that there's too much. It's too much of a maintenance program, and it's not about rehabilitation,
right?
And that's what she wants to see. She did a pivotal book about ageism, the aging process in prison, and it's actually a textbook. So she wants StoryChain to be a part of the senior capstone. So when students who are at the senior year in their 4-year degree at University of Dayton have some kind of senior capstone that they have to do, can choose StoryChain.
Nice.
So she's thinking 2 or 3 students are going to use me as a senior capstone, and I'm going to present it to them on September 10th.
That's great.
So that's huge.
Yeah.
UD's huge, and I want to be a part of UD.
That is great.
I'm all about UD.
Well, in a second, I want to talk about probably generally the rehabilitation process, but I think for now, in terms of your project, we might discuss what you feel like the future impact is going to be, what the future of the program is. So what do you see the future impact, how does this scale in terms of society and improvement of it?
There's a micro and there's a macro, and I think it's within the story of every child that goes through this. I mean, it's almost when I hear these stories and I experience these stories, it's almost like I feel a little counterintuitive, because the stories are so priceless in a way. They're so like magical. It's almost like it's a shame to just put it to some kind of anecdotal outcome processing. Like
I gotcha.
I feel like I'm taking the magic out of it by putting it into data, but the data is rich. The data is amazing, and it's not contrived. These children really do respond on a real intimate level when their mother reads to them, and they can hear it hugging their head, because the earphones drop right into their soul.
Right.
And the fact that we use MP3 players is pretty revolutionary. I mean, it's not a big deal, but they're $30 a piece. And in these other programs that do it, they still use cassette tape, or they still use CDs. And those are just audio devices that need audio. They're just audio packages that need audio devices. The MP3 players is everything. All you need is to make sure you have a power source, and we provide that for them too. We have an outlet. Even if they don't have computers, we have a what is that called? An adapter.
Okay.
We have an adapter for them if they don't have a computer, and most of them have a computer.
Yeah.
And so they just power up, and voila, there's mommy's voice, and it's all on the digital screen. They can scroll through, and they can pick whatever story they want, and they have all that.
So they do multiple stories then.
Multiple stories. We do 2, but we also do a group story with the women. For example, we did Charlotte's Web, and everybody read a chapter from Charlotte's Web. It was 22 chapters. I had 20 ladies, so I'd read a chapter, and the counselor read a chapter. But the thing is that we don't really have time for them to read a whole bunch of stories, but we have a lot of memory space in the MP3 players. Like, I could record the Bible 8 times on the amount of memory that's on an MP3 player now.
Yeah.
Is a huge amount of memory. Why? How can we take advantage of that? So we're thinking of more ideas, more ways to put more memory on these MP3 players.
That's nice.
So this collective book idea is a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these kids are 2-3 years old. They may not get it this year. They may not get it next year, but they'll get it a couple years later. They'll be able to really identify with this story and where it came from.
Right.
There was our first client ever was right outside of Wilmington. And she was our first client. This is when I was in grad school. She died. And I think you and I were in a class together when I found out that she died. She died of a heroin fentanyl overdose. And so it behooved me to take the MP3 player and the books directly to her grandmother, and to her house.
I think I remember hearing about this.
She was 2 years old. I just called her a couple days ago, and now she's 5, and she is learning to read with that MP3 player.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's really nice to hear. Tara is the grandmother, and she said that she still keeps the MP3 player in her dresser, but when she only takes it out when her granddaughter asks for it. And she asks for it about once or twice a month, but now she's asking for it for more times because she's learning to read. So I don't think there's a better claim for our program than something like that. I mean, this is a 3-year investment. We brought that 3 years, and now it's paying off. And the mother died 3 years ago, so we're keeping her alive, and we're keeping the child's hope alive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to some interesting things I think here is one, we know about all the negative statistics, of information when it comes to literacy and how important it is to future success and overall happiness and general health. So that's one aspect. And if you think about, like for instance, I'm pretty sure that in terms of fetal development, even the ability of a fetus to recognize its mother's voice and specifically its language happens very early in gestation. So it's crazy that that's always there, and it's great that there is a project like this. And I think this might be a good segue just into a general discussion of the rehabilitation process, because there are so many issues and that they can sometimes seem insurmountable. This might also be a good point, because I didn't do this at the beginning. I absolutely should have, but just talking about how you got the idea in the first place, like how did the development happen, and then what does that mean to you in terms of all the kind of what might seem like insurmountable issues that the prison system has?
Yeah, I think the idea I think was kind of spread out. I didn't walk up on top of a mountain and the great wise one spoke to me. It was just a series of different things that happened. I taught at Clark State Community College for many years, and I taught adult education, and half of my students were either just recently released from prison or had a record. And half of them, I'd say more than half of them, would drop out within the first 3 or 4 weeks. And it was always really disappointing to me. They were always pretty identifiable. they always had basic need issues, and I would
non-cognitive issues.
non-cognitive issues, and I at the very beginning would express that and how excited I was to have students who were recently released from jail and that prison, and how excited I am that they're here. So I would get a good read on who they were, and I would also be remiss when they left, and that always troubled me. And it was always a real basic reason why they couldn't continue. A car issue. Car was the biggest thing. Like couldn't get there.
Yeah.
Housing was a huge issue. Relationships. Nothing to do with their ability to do the work or their ability to do the participation in class. That was the last of their problems. So I started to think long and hard about that. Where do they go? You know, if you can't do a basic college course, you certainly can't get a job. There's very little housing opportunities for you. What do you do? And that always really, as a teacher, really concerned me. I do know that it's not like it is, 3 people a day come back into the Miami Valley from prison. That's 100 people a month.
Yeah.
That come back into the Miami Valley looking for something to do.
Yep.
And so that's been a huge concern. That was a definite seed to what Story Chain is now. Another seed was Daddy and Me, which is a program in New York City that was collaborated by the New York Public Library System and the New York criminal justice system. And they have a pretty good program where they have a father who wants to read to the child will come in for a couple workshops, and then their voices are recorded on CD player. And the CD player is cellophaned with the books. The address is written on the thing, and it's sent out to the child. Hopefully it gets there. Mm-hmm. And it's a good idea. And, I remember reading that in the New York Times, and I cut that out, and that was kind of the impetus. But I thought that my program could be a lot more Baroque, a lot more detailed, and the MP3 player could replace the CD. And all that worked. All of it worked. Technology is a real key here. I think technology can be used on a prison level. You don't have to resort to 1980 and old technology. And that just always seems to be where prison seems to wrap their mind around technology. We'll just take the stuff that's old. We'll just take the stuff that's used. We don't need to update that because this is the last thing you want taxpayers to spend money on. But I beg to differ.
Right.
I think that MP3 players are a great resource. And they're really just for joggers. And they just get cheaper and better all the time. So the sheriff's department pays for all of them. They see the benefit, and the libraries pay for the books. So we don't really have much of a overhead.
Yeah,
I might have said that already, but
that's amazing.
Nice. Yeah, it is amazing.
I don't remember catching that, but
because I thought raising the money was going to be for that stuff, but now I bought a computer. I bought some microphones, and I bought some portable digital recorders.
Nice.
So it's fun. That's cool stuff. But what was your question?
Well, I guess now we can go into a transition of we're already almost there, but just the idea of the rehabilitation. What do you want to call it?
When you have a literacy program, you teach literacy to people who are incarcerated. To me, that's always been an exciting notion. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, how invested and how dedicated is a student going to be if they're incarcerated and you give them a book about, you give them a Norman Mailer book, mm-hmm. or I don't know, a Midsummer's Night's Dream. How connected are they to this literature? How connected are they to what you're trying to give them? I like to think that I'm a very entertaining instructor. And I love to make my students laugh. I love to get them engaged in some way. I love small groups. I love all that. I love reading out loud. I love doing the work inside the class. I hate homework. I think it's just totally counterintuitive. Let's do something while we're in these four walls, not outside these four walls. What's the whole point? When you do story chain, I don't need any of those devices because they're doing it for somebody else. They're doing it with a mission. They're doing it to they know what the product is. So it's almost like assembly line precision because they know the steps that they have to make. If they are illiterate, and some of them are, they memorize. They memorize the book.
I should have asked what you do in that.
Yeah, and this is where mentoring and partnership is really key because the inmates they'll kind of gather around the one person that can't read very well, and they'll make sure that they have their part ready. So when the book comes, that's another thing about.
Is there a lot of identification with these women because they? Okay.
Yes, I think so. There's people that have said that they'd never read a book until Story Chain, and that there was other women who were very well read. Some of these women are better read than me. They just have vast knowledge.
Yep.
And actually, I've argued with a few people. I very rarely see anyone who's completely illiterate.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe
either.
A third, yeah.
Yeah, when I worked at the prisons, and I would even say that like one thing that might catch people off guard is these people read and write all the time.
Yeah.
And they did it in their cells. They would read these the people when I worked at Lebanon. When I worked at Lebanon, you know, those were like the minimum max, minimum max security. They wrote novels.
Right.
They wrote whole novels and tried to get them published.
Yeah.
And that
Literacy
was just
works.
amazing. Yeah.
That whole experiment, it's a good experiment. It's working. We are becoming a literate nation. And I think the prisons reflect that. I've had an argument with a couple of people who say, well, the literacy can't be that good. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a college. People are very well read in prison and very well read in jail. But even if they're not, this program lends itself in so many ways, and especially the people that are literate take it upon themselves to help the others.
So it's formative not just for the children, but for the mothers themselves.
The literacy is snuck in.
Right, yeah.
It finds its way because you're using literacy to make this product. You're using all the fine points of literacy to make this product. And my favorite part is like the 4th and 5th workshop where they're really trying to hone in on the author's intent with their voice. What do they do with their voice?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
The rhetorical moves.
Right.
What's the intonation that they're going to use here? The different characters. How different do you want to make the voices? Is the male voice deep? Is the woman's voice high? Can you do other kind of dances with your voice that distinguish that?
That's amazing.
I love that stuff, and I want to get more voice specialists in. I just think that's a great part of the rhetoric that is overlooked a lot. Overlooked on regular schools. I mean, you hear voice classes, but that's usually reserved for theater folks. Why is it? We all have voices. We use our voices all the time.
Yeah.
Why isn't there a regular class for that? There might be a speech class, but there's usually a special.
Right, and it's usually centered on more professional speech.
Public speaking, yeah.
Right.
But I think
that's really interesting.
Yeah. I think public speaking should be an English class.
Yeah.
I do at Sinclair. I make sure that everybody stands in front and speaks. You got to do it.
Yep.
It's just some people hate it.
Yeah.
Sorry about your luck.
It's an important life skill.
It is.
It is, and that's another way that this program I can see promoting literacy, just having that connection to the voice and hearing the different ways that your voice can create certain implications or ideas is pivotal.
Something's really rewarding that we do is we have them listen to their own voice. And that, at first I thought it was going to make them a little too self-conscious.
Right.
But I think they're their best analysts. And they really hear, it's like, oh, I really needed to punch that near there. Okay, I obviously wasn't that invested with that character, so I need to find a new way to enter that character's voice. So yeah, listening back, the playback, the technology that we're now given. I like to give them headphones, so I don't want other people to listen to their own voice. I want them to listen to their own voice because this is a work in progress. The presentation is at the very end. The last time they're going to speak is in the microphone that will go into their child's ear.
Wow. So there is a whole process that they go through before that final.
It's like
it's a performance.
It's working up to a performance. Yeah, I think that's
Wow.
the best way. It's like a theater piece that they're going to do.
That
And
is
the
amazing.
day that we record is a very intense day. It's big.
Yeah.
Because sound quality in jails is not the best. So sometimes we bring in
Oh,
mattresses.
how is that? Okay. All right. Mattresses.
We bring in mattresses. Well, there was one time at Greene County where I felt I couldn't believe I got myself in this position. We were trying to get the echo out, and all of a sudden I saw myself under the table with 3 women with blankets over us.
Trying to get,
And we're all bent over, and I'm looking, and I can't even see them, but we're all huddled together. I'm like, I gotta get out of here. Somebody else hold the mic. But yeah, they're so responsive. When I go in there, and this is not to brag, but when I go in there, they clap, they stand and they cheer.
Wow.
And they clap because they're so excited. They know they have work to do.
Mm-hmm.
They know that they have a mission to accomplish, and they get it done.
So what is that last day like apart from all the hectic chaos? Like, is there a relief after it's over?
Yes, there is a lot of relief. There's a lot of appreciation, and usually the last day is usually like the last 3 or 4 recordings. Like,
Gotcha.
I can't record them all on the same day.
Right.
So I say it's 8 workshops. It's usually 10 or 11 workshops because just the recording is the end. So you never know. And there's always somebody that comes in the middle, and they have to catch up, and then they're usually recorded near the last. And it's kind of a little anticlimactic because we're always kind of finishing up. But I also kind of like that as I don't need a grand exit.
Right.
I need a grand entrance.
And emotions are probably really high there already anyway.
Yes. Right. Yes.
Given the circumstances.
And a lot of programs, I think, mess this up too. They feel that they should have a public reading. We're going to have kids show up, and we're going to have families show up. We're going to have this big public reading. And I think that's just the worst thing you can do because, again, you're setting up for failure.
Yeah.
A lot of kids don't show up. That's just the nature of this business. Kids do not show up when their parents ask them to in an incarcerated situation. Caregivers can't make it. There's always like this somber mood because somebody didn't show up.
Yeah.
And also what we don't do, and I know Story Chain will never do, is we don't videotape. Videotape is not what this is about. It is about the oral entering the oral. It's about the mouth going into the ear. It is not about visual. Although we do have the stories and we have the picture books, of course. But why would a child want to see mommy in an orange jumpsuit with bars in the background?
And most of them probably don't want their children to see them that way.
No, they don't. So. They're very uncomfortable with it.
Right.
And they feel very awkward with the pages in front of them.
Wow.
Let's suspend belief a little bit and create the magicality. I made up that word. Magicality of the voice, and take out all the stress that is usually afforded with that voice. And I just used a big academic word. And take out all the stress and put it into a magical story that the children will want to listen to over and over and over, and they do. It's a great experience because the parents really kind of escape themselves. I have a letter. I should have brought it, and I would love to read it on air.
That would have been nice. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I should have done that. Dang. I
Um.
wonder if I have it on. No, I don't have it online. I'm going to read it. on October 1st at the
Okay.
Rotary Club, at the Dayton Rotary Club. I got $3,000 from them,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm receiving it that day at Sinclair.
Yeah.
You should show up if you like.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. You said it's when?
it's on the 1st, October 1st.
Oh, October 1st.
Yeah,
I
and
will
it's
be here.
building 13, I think.
Okay.
Near the president's office. The Rotary Club meets there every.
And it is at Sinclair too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
that'd
meet
be,
every Tuesday.
I'm pretty sure I could do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'm going to read her letter.
Okay.
She's another inmate that died,
Gotcha.
and she wrote just this incredible letter about the program and saying that every week she turns in her green uniform for a princess's outfit, and she becomes a funny green pig or a funny pink. She just says all these different characters that she becomes, and it's the most magical part of her time there, and she's doing it for her daughter. I'm not doing it justice.
Yeah.
She writes it really well. She kills it, and yeah, that pun was not intended because she did die.
Yeah.
She did die 4 months later.
Gotcha.
And I'm sure there's other women that have done the program who've passed.
Yeah.
I can't keep up with all of them.
Well, that's another benefit as well of something like this is that it lasts forever. It's going to always be there.
And just a quick story about her is after she died, I didn't know she died. I was a Facebook friend of hers, and I'm going through her Facebook page because I'm trying to get a hold of her because I want to get the MP3 player to her daughter. Her the father of her child would not respond to my phone calls. Sometimes that happens. He was not the primary caregiver at the time, but he got custody, and I could not get a hold of him. He would not respond. So I go to her Facebook page, and that's when I found out that she had OD'd.
Wow.
And then I saw a message of saying, what's going to happen to her children? I thought she just had one child. And then another guy says, well, I have Sadie. She's 9 years old living in Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh my God. So I Facebook him, get a hold of him, and said, I hear you have Sadie. I didn't know she existed. Here's my program.
Wow.
Would you be interested? And he said, sure. So I sent him the MP3 player and the book to Oklahoma City. And then the 9-year-old Skyped with the younger daughter, the other daughter, the 4-year-old, and now she has the MP3 player. So this family was in Dayton. I couldn't get a hold of them, but I had to get a hold of them. I got a hold of them via Oklahoma City, and the MP3 player went there, and it flew to Dayton.
Wow.
It took a couple months for that to happen, but
yeah, that's really amazing.
yeah, it's things like that and
that you don't anticipate.
You don't anticipate
the way that it reaches out.
Yeah, and
like
I think
that.
more things like that would happen if I had manpower.
Right.
If I had more time to do it, because following these journeys of these MP3 players and where they go, they all end up somewhere spectacular. They end up somewhere great in the hands of children. And this program is all about the children, but we spend very little time on them. And I think that speaks for education. We always talk about the problems of education now, and then everybody gets so exhausted about what schools can do and what teachers can do and what administrators can do, and then everybody just kind of says, well, it's kind of all about the parents, isn't it? It's all about what the parents can do.
Yeah.
It's on them. Well,
yeah,
let's go to the place where parents are the most disenfranchised, where parents have the least power.
Yeah.
Let's go to them first and see what we can do for them. And Story Chain answers that. We go straight to them. We work with them. We talk about what their regrets are and how they can do to repair that.
Right.
And I think we do a pretty good job. And the program is definitely about the children, but we go through the parents for it.
Right.
And you couldn't do that in a regular school. We're going to teach our children. Let's go and teach the parents first.
Yeah. Yeah.
This has a great opportunity to go backwards with it.
Right.
And I think with that, it sends a message that can be repeated in many different platforms. You can do it in many different ways. I mean, I think this program for the military is a great idea. I know that was
Yeah.
bandied about quite a bit.
Yeah, that does sound. Yeah, the implications seem really wide ranging, even if the project is different. I agree with what you're saying in terms of people have this. They have this weird. So they want to say. We obviously understand that a lot of the issues that occur, especially in terms of. Recidivism, but also just the statistical chances of these children also being in the same position as their parents are very high.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way to approach that is usually understanding environment and the fact that the participation of the parents has a lot to do with that. But then the question becomes, okay, so obviously the circumstances aren't ideal. So what do we do now? It has to be, I think, the question, and I think that Story Chain answers that pretty well.
Yeah, I think we do the best that we can do, and I think it's just getting better now that we're repeating the program at the same place, and we're understanding how it works within the jail system. We're just getting better at it, and I want to be able to take that model and put it in other models. I think we're going to go to Preble soon. We're going to go to Miami soon. I want to keep going to hop around to other counties.
Right.
But for right now, we're just seeing how it works. And also with Greene County, we're just staying with Greene County. I want to see how I can incorporate the volunteers. I want to see how many people can replace my job.
Mm-hmm.
When is there the time for me to step aside?
Yeah.
And that's going to be a really exciting moment because I just want to. It's going to be bigger than me, and I want to see it get bigger than me. That's the whole point. That's why we're on this planet.
Yeah.
You want to see things get bigger than you.
Yeah.
And I just want to see this. I want to see this balloon float. I want to see how far it floats. And so I think sticking with Greene County, sticking with these great people, with Sheriff Fisher, they're amazing people. The sheriff gets me. I get him. That was one of my biggest concerns. So I'm a little radical.
Yeah. No,
it's
it's
really
really
authority a lot.
Yeah, Jonathan is really radical.
Well, I just question a lot.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Well, there is.
You need the
Sometimes
balance.
Sometimes you get a C instead of an A.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of that C though.
Yeah.
So having the criminal justice on your side is paramount. You got to sell it to them, and that's
great.
Like peddling my wares. So I want to get it so crisp and clean at Greene County that it will sell itself.
Well, that's great that there's people in there. I just remember my experience has been, in terms of prison, feeling really discouraged about the people that work there because so many of them seem to not care.
Yeah.
And that's just my experience. I'm not saying that that's the way that it is generally, but it's really great that there are absolutely people out there that
there are
that
but
want the change.
Your experience is true as well. There's not much support there. I mean, it can really grate on you. I could only imagine being a prison guard or a guard in a jail.
Yeah.
Asked the same thing over and over and over, seeing the same kind of problems over and over and over. And when do you act out of justice, and when do you avoid being called a whistleblower?
Yep.
When do you compromise your position?
Yes.
That's the thing about Story Chain. We don't have those kind of strings attached.
Right.
We are volunteers. We're coming in with a very pure mission for the child.
Yeah.
And I do say that to the inmates. This program is not about them. It is not about them.
Yeah.
But they are leading the charge for what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
But it is not about them. It is about the child. Because the child's...
It's an opportunity for them to do something that they couldn't do otherwise.
Yeah, and if you're a 4-year-old kid and mommy or daddy, say mommy, is incarcerated, which you may or may not know. Sometimes you might be aware that mommy's sick, but she's incarcerated. That's kind of, whether it's good or bad, you still miss mommy. And whether it's good or bad, you think it's mommy's in a fantastical world because it's not the world with you. So what are you thinking about?
Yeah, what do you imagine when you imagine your parents?
And it doesn't surprise me that a child whose parents are incarcerated is 5 times more likely to be incarcerated themselves than a child who does not have parents who are incarcerated, because they think about it a lot. They go down that road unwittingly, subconsciously. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
If my parents were incarcerated, of course I'd probably be incarcerated myself, because that's the pipeline. And so this is, to me, this is generational literacy that's trying to cut that cord, trying to let the mother know to the child that this is where I am, and I am working hard for you to let you know that we love you and we care about you. And who knows that what goes through a 4-year-old's brain, but having the recording, the fresh recording of mother's voice can't be a negative thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It certainly is. I mean, we got a lot of data out there, but I don't know if it's definitive to say it can't be a negative thing, but it can't be a negative thing.
Yeah.
We are doing a really good thing here. And I just think that it needs to be a model that needs to be repeated, and it needs to be nationwide. It needs to be international, I think.
Yeah, we definitely need more programs like this. We need ones that are concerned with the well-being of not only the people in prison, but those that they leave behind.
Right.
And there just aren't enough. And when you look at what's going on, we all see the issues. So it's obvious that we need things like this. Yeah,
and I think when we talk about rehabilitation, we really need to talk about rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Sitting in a jail cell is not rehabilitation.
Right.
There are no programs in jail. And one of the things when I learned about prison, all the people that were in prison have told me that they were so excited to finally be in prison because they weren't in jail.
Yeah.
Jail is the new prison. Orange is the new black. Jail is the new prison, because when you're incarcerated now, I mean, even Brock Turner, the rapist from Sugar Creek Township, who was in California at the time of the rape, he was never in prison. He was in jail for 6 months. So jail is, I mean, for heinous crimes, you don't even go to prison. You go to jail. So jail is becoming this place of incarceration without any rehabilitation programs at all, because they're all in prison. So jail's like the community school of the 4-year prison degree. But there's nothing there.
It's probably just because of overpopulation.
It has a lot to do with overpopulation. And with Greene County, they're in there for 3 months and 6 months. If you have a misdemeanor, you're in there for 3 months. If you're a felony, you're in there for 6 months. You never go to prison. Although some do eventually go to prison because they have other charges. And so they might be serving one charge in jail, and then they'll be transferred to prison.
To finish it. Yeah. And I was going to, I guess, a couple final questions. One would be, so they don't normally have access to audio equipment or recording equipment, right?
No.
Are they allowed to leave other messages apart from the story? Is it pretty much just the story at this point?
It's pretty much the stories at this point. Now, I'm working with publishers right now, and I'm starting to understand the really intricate world of publishing, and that there's some books that I should have never used, I should have never recorded, and there's other books that are totally open.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to learn about that, but then I'm also thinking about why not StoryChain become their own publishing company?
Yeah.
Another program we can do for high school students, even middle school students, is to create stories that are adaptable for the inmates to read to their children. So we can say the mother really likes Dr. Seuss, and we love Dr. Seuss. Maybe we can have a classroom create a story similar to that. We're not plagiarizing, but similar, taking the structure or whatever.
Yeah, you're gonna hit that 30% likeness or something.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
I'm not exact. Yeah, it's somewhere around that. It's like 33% likeness.
Yeah, straight out cheat, whatever.
Yeah.
But take the ideas of other authors and create our own stories. And then it's another piece of the collaboration to StoryChain, another creative step to what we're creating. I would love to have Story Chain create all the books for what we do. And, you know, the books is really our last problem. Everybody wants to give me free books.
Mm-hmm.
The Greene County Library pays for brand new books from Barnes & Noble, so we have no problem with that. But I think down the road with publishing, it might behoove us to just create our own books, create our own stories.
Cut out the middleman.
Cut out the middleman. And also with that, you know, the whole explosion of audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know you're a well-read guy.
I'm actually listening to Hillbilly Elegy right now.
Oh, are you?
On
That's
Libby.
a great book.
Yeah. I didn't know about Libby.
I'm a Briar.
A Briar?
Yeah.
What's that?
That's what Hillbilly Elegy is all about.
Oh, okay.
People from Kentucky going to Ohio.
Right,
I'm
yes.
a Briar.
Yeah.
I'm proud of it. But for different reasons, I'm in Ohio. I didn't come here to work at a steel factory.
Yeah.
Yeah, audiobooks are becoming all the rage.
Mm-hmm.
Are you you're listening to Hillbilly Ray?
On Libby, and I found out about it actually at the faculty development at St. Clair.
Oh, okay.
And it was one of those things. I was like, how do you not know about that?
What did they say? What was it?
It was for the library. It was a library seminar. They were teaching us how to use the library, and they just passively mentioned like one resource is Libby, where you can listen to audiobooks for free. And I'm
really?
just like about to buy what's it called? What's it called? The major audiobook company.
Oh,
Audible. Yeah,
something like that.
And I had them for a while because I wanted to listen to books.
Okay.
But I just don't have the money for that. So.
Oh, you'll have to tell me more about it because I didn't go to the seminar, so I missed all that stuff.
Oh no, it was really great. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have gone. That was terrible.
Well, they fed you. That was one thing.
Yeah, I missed out.
Yeah.
But this is where I think Story Chain will eventually not need the charitable. Well, let's see. They won't need to raise money as much because we can make our own money.
Yeah.
I think people will want to listen to our audiobooks. I think we can have somebody who has a booming voice from Greene County Jail who reads The Invisible Man or reads a powerful novel by Gore Vidal, and their presence, their personality can be part of the purchase power of the book. Here's a person that was incarcerated for 6 months, and they did all this voice work, and now they're going to read you these great books for $9.99 or whatever.
Yeah,
and I could see, or like an African American woman who reading a book by Alice Walker. I just think that's a great market. Audio books are becoming all the rage because we all have them on the capabilities on our phone to listen to it. I went to Bill Beagle's office. He's the state he's a state senator, and he tells me he listens to audiobooks every day, and that just makes sense for his drive just to listen to books, and it's just exploding. James Patterson, his last book was not written. It was straight out.
It was just audiobook.
Yeah, he just read it out loud.
That's crazy.
And, it's kind of like the second orality or the third orality that Walter Ong was talking about.
Yeah.
That we're kind of reaching this new orality where audio is becoming huge. Mike Lewis, the guy who wrote about Wall Street, who wrote the big.
Oh, you're talking about the Big Little, or no? What's it called? It's called
The Big Put, or the.
That wasn't about the housing market, was it?
Yes, about the housing.
Oh,
market.
okay, yeah.
Mike Lewis, yeah. He his last book was straight audio. So I just think there's a huge market for that because people are just finding a new way to read books by listening to them. Yeah. So I think we're into a great market, and I think there's a niche for people who want second chances, who need some kind of notice for what they do, and so I think this could pay off. I think this could pay off for them.
Yeah,
it could pay for our services.
Yeah,
it could be an actual profit business.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah, it is good.
Yeah,
it's a win-win. It's not bad.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I just get excited talking about it, thinking about it. I just think there's so many possibilities.
Yeah.
But it takes work, it takes people, it takes belief, like it's sweat equity. It's all that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of part-time jobs, and I'm raising a family, and do what I got to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to be radical.
It is. It is definitely hard. That's for sure. We agree on that. Yep. Well, based on or off of that, would you want to tell us where they could reach you or reach the organization?
Well, we have a Facebook page that is sometimes operational because I don't hit it enough. It's on me, and so every time something happens, I try to put it on Facebook. So you can go to Facebook Story Chain. We are the only story chain in Ohio that I know of, so we've patented that name. We are also known as Friends of Story Chain, which is operated out of Greene County Community Foundation. That is a very easy way to get a hold of us. I can give a phone number.
That's up to you.
Who's listening to this?
Well, we don't know how many listeners we have, so it's gonna go on YouTube. That's
Okay.
what I can tell you.
Yeah, you could just go to Facebook and
Okay.
find us on Facebook and reach me there.
Okay.
My name's Jonanthan Platt.
Okay.
It's probably the safest thing for me to do.
Yeah, yeah. I actually gave my number to my students this year.
Did you? How'd
Yeah.
that work?
I almost regretted it immediately. So,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Okay.
So
Good to know. I mean, my email, I'll be glad to give that, is johnnyfish2000 at gmail.com. That's JONNYFISH 2000 at gmail.com. And you just email me if you're really interested in knowing about it.
and then updating as well. Has it?
Updating, yeah, you can go through
Okay.
updating.
Do you get that information when somebody fills that out to volunteer?
Yeah, I do. Well, like what updating does is if a volunteer is interested in Story Chain, there's information about Story Chain on updating. So yeah, I mean, I could talk for years about Story Chain. I would love to do this for the rest of my life. I think it's that important, and I'm not an altruistic guy. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna, I don't think I'm amazing. I don't think that I don't think I have a true heart of love. I'd like to think this is a very practical idea. I like to think this is a very sensible thing. When you're in prison, all you do is wait. What kind of rehabilitation is that? Especially when you're in jail, you have nothing to do. And the things that you do get to do are very inadequate and second best. It's all about second rate quality. And Story Chain wants to do the best, highest quality work for something that's really, really important. It's about gaining back a connection that should never have been severed.
Right.
And it's not substituting the mother or father, but it is putting something in place. And hopefully the child, and I think the children that are in the ages from 7 or 8 and 13 or 14 really get a lot out of it between those ages. They really, really feel, they know that it makes sense. Their rhetorical listening is on. They really listen to the sincerity of their mother's voice. They know that these are not their words, but the intent behind it is 100% mommy.
Right.
And
well, story time is just so pivotal,
Yes.
to a lot of people's lives. So.
The data shows story time works, and this is story time incarcerated style, and this is the best program for it. We've really nailed it. We do it right, because we work so long with the inmates, and I think a lot of people get it wrong. It's like, oh, we're gonna nurture the child, and the child needs to be nurtured by the parent, and that separation is there. Let's move on. What are we gonna do now?
Yeah.
Let's really work on the parent. because the parent is the one that's getting out.
Yep.
The parent's the one that's going to move on. Maybe the parent can help promote Story Chain once they get out. Maybe the parent can work with the libraries and maybe other hubs that can, community hubs that can do this. You know, I talked about earlier where the child can reciprocate and read back. Maybe there's a parent who can help with that, who got out a year ago and now runs the program in their local chapter. I see ex-offenders doing this program. That's the ultimate goal.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds good. I appreciate the
I
the
appreciate
talk,
you,
Jonathan.
Quayd. No, I really do.
That was really great.
It's great. Thank you for letting me talk about it.
Thank all the listeners for listening in on this. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave comments or like it or share it, possibly. My name is William Snell. I'm with Jonanthan Platt.
Like us.
Yeah, definitely do it. All right. Have a nice day, guys.